Has the so-called special relationship between Britain and the US been permanently damaged by our politicians slagging off President Trump? And if it has, does it matter? I think the answer to both has to be no. So what if he didn't come to open the new US embassy in London this week? The whole US diplomatic service is working around Trump, not for him. They know they're dealing with a child, not a stable genius. And they know his time as president is inevitably limited. Over the years, British politicians sucking up to American presidents has been pretty disastrous for us. Just remember Tony Blair in Iraq. Some 80 years ago, the American writer H.L. Mencken wrote, "On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of America will reach their heart's desire and the White House will be adorned by a moron." Well, the moron is with us, and we might as well say so and thank the Lord that he cancelled his trip to Britain.
See, I don't necessarily agree with what's going on about this, So Donald Trump, whether you like him or dislike him, and quite frankly, I'd be surprised if he really cares what we think of him either way, but whether you like him or dislike him, you should still respect the position that he holds, the office that he represents. He is somebody that has a very powerful position, very senior position, and it's an office that we should be working closely with. It's a country that we should do our best to have a good relationship with. And for me, where I struggle with all of this is, by the way, I think that Trump just comes across as an absolute idiot at various different places. Some of the things that he says are absolutely cringeworthy and embarrassing. So I'm not stood here saying that, I want to get an I Love Donald Trump T-shirt or anything like that. But just because I don't agree with what he does and the way that he does a lot of things doesn't mean that actually I should be battening down the hatches, pushing him away and saying you're not welcome in this country on a state visit or otherwise. And I think by doing that, we're just going to be causing ourselves problems in the long run.
I think actually if he'd come, the protest would be such that I think you'd do a lot more damage than good in terms of your relationship with Trump. But what I'm saying is, look, everybody knows what Trump is. I mean, if you read, I've been reading Michael Wolff's book, and if it's true, I mean, it is almost funny. I mean, it's not.
Can I just bring in what Theresa May said about this special relationship?
The relationship that the UK has with the United States is about something much bigger than just the relationship between the two individuals as President and Prime Minister. That's important. But actually, we have a long-standing special relationship with the United States. It's based on shared values.
And you see, this is my problem now, because on a normal day I would have disagreed with you and said we had to have a special relationship. I actually think that we don't, the shared values we might have once had with America, we don't now have. And I think we have to be brave enough as a country, when we don't agree with what a leader says about something, we have to be brave enough to stand up and say so. But it's interesting, this special relationship, you will know this better than me, that in America, they don't talk about a special relationship with Britain. They think it's a bit of a joke, and they only talk about it when there are Brits in town, because they think we're needy and we want to hear it. But also, there was a survey, and it was 2009, that said 14 out of 25 EU countries thought they had a very special relationship too with America. But the bottom line is, I don't want to call him a moron, because and it's interesting that the doctor today came out and said that he scored 30 out of 30 in a cognitive test, so he's not nuts. I mean, that's now officially he's not nuts.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm glad you've mentioned Donald Trump, because I spent my Christmas redoing the Trump card, making it absolutely the pledge Trump card.
Yes.
But, Greg, it's a Trump card with a difference. Because, as Carol mentioned, the cognitive test, as you are closest in age to Donald Trump, and we want to check your capabilities, I wonder if you'd like to take this test. Now, you can see we go. I've got the pen, so we're good to go. So you go from 1 to A to 2. Where do you want to go next in the cognitive test? And I'll tell you that Donald Trump passed this.
Well,
so
you pretty easily go to B, I think.
OK, I go to B, and where do I go after B?
Then you go 3 and C and 4 and D.
So I go B. Where do I go from 3?
You go to C.
I go to C.
If it's logical.
Yes, and
then
I go
to 4.
Yes.
Then you go to D.
Yes.
Then you go to 5, and then you go to E.
I think he's got that right, hasn't he?
Is this, sorry,
unfortunately,
is this
so much for the Trump card.
If that's what you have to do to prove that you've got it all there, then I think it's a bit thin.
I wonder if in the United States they would say he's a moron. Stock market up 27% since Trump was sworn in. Sweeping tax cuts, 1.5 trillion tax cut over 10 years. Corporation tax, if you were running your businesses over there, will get down to 21%. One more to come to you. 2 million jobs created last year, 1.84 million of which were created by President Trump in 11 months. That was considerably better than some previous presidents have done. I wonder if in America, Greg Dyke, they'd call him a moron if you just got your job back.
Look, first of all, the idea that you create jobs you get into the White House and suddenly you're creating jobs, these are all planned. That all comes as a result of what's been happening over the years. I mean, the recession ended.
Stock market up.
The stock market
taxes
up.
down.
Yeah, well, that's why they went up, because the taxes are coming down.
Well, surpassed 17 of his predecessors in terms of growth.
Sure, but then you look at some of the things he says and does, and he's a clown. Well, have you read the book?
I haven't, no, because I don't know how authentic it will be. Well, I think there's quite a bit of tittle.
Yes, I mean, that's what I said earlier. If the book is true, it's scary, because he doesn't read anything, he doesn't listen to anybody.
That's what he said about you at the BBC.
He goes to bed at 7 o'clock every night and watches 3 different televisions.
He said the same of Obama. He said he was the most self-obsessed man that he'd ever met, and also that he thought he knew better than anyone in the room. That goes with the job of president.
Well, I'm glad to hear that President Trump has got some defenders. It surprises me, because actually what I've found in this country is that the only thing I've known that's united the right and the left is they all think he's a clown.
But isn't it funny, in France, they've always been more detached about this special relationship, haven't they? And here Trump has already been to Paris. Macron has hosted a successful visit. Macron even called him out on climate change, and yet they're still buddies. It worked there. So we don't have to be as close, I don't think, as we think.
Well, we've set ourselves up in this respect. You know, I mean, I don't know what's happened to you over Christmas, Carol. Actually, I'm agreeing with you so much today.
Oh,
it's a little bit disarming.
Won't last, your debate's coming. It won't last.
I have to go after Michelle instead. Michelle, you know, you said we should respect the office. He doesn't respect the office. No. This is the thing about Trump. I mean, look at these fake news awards. To have the leader of supposedly the free world talking about the enemies of the people when he's talking about the free press, that's the kind of thing I would expect, Nick, you know, for you to be throwing around North Korea in your boiler suit analogies that you love so much. This, you know, this is not a man who respects the democracy that he leads. So
if he works for
how are the rest of us supposed to take him seriously?
What are we to say? If he works,
you know what, fine. And you know what, it's
back.
true he's created jobs, although fewer than Obama in his last year. It's true that he's cut taxes, especially for the richest in society, which, you know...
No, they're for the job.
We just need to get feeds into his narrative.
No, one second. It wasn't Mr. Cameron who talked about Obama being self-obsessed. It was Steve Hilton. So
Cameron had told him that.
But then that goes to the interesting question of, you know, the personality versus the policies of these leaders. Now, I don't care about whether he's a nice person. I'm confident that he's not. And, you know, I'm reading Fire and Fury as well, but I didn't need to read it to know that I don't like him. And also, I think that's probably unhelpful for those of us who are fundamentally offended by someone like Trump, just finding more and more things that make us dislike him. You know, we already know that we don't like him. I know. I'm not his fan base, and I was never meant to be. That's not what this is about. This is about, like Carol said, our values.
That he wants to be liked. He does want to be liked. If Wolf's right, he does want to be liked.
To get off Twitter, then.
And you know, when he goes to China, you know, he says things that he didn't say about China when he was running. Why? Because he got applauded
in life. But can I just point something out I think everyone seems to miss? So it's all well and good sitting around this table saying, oh, is this, is that, we don't like him and we're fundamentally outraged. A lot of people voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, they did.
And what I would say
More voted for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't say that. I said a lot of people voted for him. And not only did they vote for him, they voted for him on the things that he was saying. And a lot of the things that he was saying, he's kept those promises. So for the first time in a lot of people's memorable history, they actually feel that, you know what, we voted for this person, we liked what he said, and actually he's starting to deliver on what he said. He's keeping his promises, and they respect that. Now, I don't understand why people don't seem to get that. Why has everyone got such a problem?
No, but just finishing the point I was trying to make in terms of our special relationship, if America as a nation is heading down a path, because maybe even if the majority of its electorate want things that are fundamentally opposed to our values, then I think we should reappraise the special relationship, especially since it mainly seems to exist in our imaginations. And that's why we, unlike Macron, can't host him, because it makes us look even more unedifyingly sucky-uppy than we did already.
It's a good place to stop.
And you're a lawyer and you've just written a book. Sucky bloody uppy. What does that mean?
I think you should have interrupted the first time.
Yeah.
Sucky uppy is an interesting...